Next, we're going to review Part A of the excerpt from The Chinese Entrepreneur Found Freedom in French Furniture. Ning Li, co-founder and CEO of the online furniture store Made.com, already has 2 startup companies under his belt. He launched his first business selling furniture over the internet to customers in France after he left a career in investment banking. He says he went into banking to prove he could do it, but soon realized he had a different itch to scratch. As an entrepreneur, we like freedom, he says. He found investment banking to be at the opposite end of the scale. It's extremely useful in terms of experience, but it didn't fit me, he admits. Ning realized he needed to get out quickly. The longer you go into investment banking, the more you are paid, and the more difficult it is to leave your job and start something on your own, he explains. Ning set up his first company in France, selling furniture online when he was 25 years old. To him, launching a startup seemed like a natural progression. When you look at what Chinese people do abroad, a lot of them open restaurants, and that's a very entrepreneurial approach, he says. This is Ning Li. He's the Chinese entrepreneur who found freedom in French furniture. He used to be an investment banker, but he wanted more professional freedom. So he became an entrepreneur and set up his first company selling furniture online when he was 25. This section was about Ning's inspirations. Now we're going to look at the questions that involve information from that section. Look down to question 14. What is the effect of the expression, he had a different itch to scratch in the first paragraph? That's the part that it was explaining when he went into banking, he wanted to prove he could do it, but then he realized he had another passion. Right? And the correct answer for that is A. It suggests that Ning Li had a strong interest in the freedom of owning a business. And that's from standard L.5.A. The next question, number 15, is also from this part of the section. What does Ning Li imply in paragraphs 3 and 4? This one, I think we need to go through all the choices. All right, so if we look down, we're going to start from the bottom and go up. Does he imply that a banking background provides very little help to someone interested in starting a business? No. In fact, he says the opposite, that his banking background did help him move into being an entrepreneur. Now we'll look at C. His inability to pursue an investment banking career led him to start a business. No, it didn't say he wasn't good at it, it just said he didn't like it. So it's not C. Now we're down to A and B. A. Investment bankers make much more profit than business owners. Well, maybe, sometimes. They get paid more as they move on and have more seniority, but it doesn't necessarily mean they make more profit than business owners. And then that leaves us with B, that investment bankers have very few opportunities to make their own choices. For number 15, the correct answer is B. And you can see when you look back at that section that he talks a lot about wanting to have freedom. And it's implied that he didn't have freedom as an investment banker. That goes to RI1. Moving to the next section, 2 perspectives. Ning left China to continue his studies in France when he was 15 years old, and he says the result was an exposure to a double culture of Chinese and French. The experience made it easy to spot how one market could benefit from the other. I come from a medium-sized town which happens to be one of the biggest furniture manufacturing bases in China, he says. Yet he found the price difference between goods manufactured in Asia and sold in the West astounding. How could a $300 sofa sell at 3,000 euros? He asked. Just crazy. It was something he asked himself again when he realized that the costs of manufacturing designer furniture were the same or less than regular brands. Pitching designer brands at more affordable prices while still making a healthy profit was a clear business model for Ning Li. It's always an opportunity when you see a big market that hasn't changed so much, he says. Many furniture manufacturers find it uneconomic to supply products in small quantities. Using the internet to aggregate orders helps matters. Once enough orders have come in to fill a shipping container, it's possible for the goods to be manufactured and dispatched. Ning Li says this approach helps to keep costs down. Indeed, he says, the success of it was apparent from the start. We had about 300 orders for day one, he recalls. 300 orders for a furniture business. Just amazing. So that section's key points were that Ning left China to study in France, where he realized that a $300 sofa in China would sell at 3,000 euros in France. So this section was about Ning's decisions. He decided to create a business model that pitched designer brands at more affordable prices while still making a healthy profit. And he would use the internet to group orders to keep costs down. This picture is from Made.com's website. It's really interesting to look at if you want to see more about what Ning Li's doing with selling furniture online. Let's take a look at question 16. Which experience in Ning Li's life influenced the choice of his first entrepreneurial adventure? Right? And so we look down the options, and we see that the one from this section is D, continuing his education in France, RI.3. If we glance at question 17, we're going to delve more into that with what was the effect of Ning Li's trip to France on his future business plans? Right? And as we said earlier, it allowed him to see firsthand the huge markup on Asian furniture in European markets. The $300 sofa in Asia sells for 3,000 euros in France. So our answer is D. It allowed him to see firsthand the huge markup on Asian furniture in European markets. And that's from standard RI.1. And now for the last section of this passage. Know your weaknesses. Ning Li admits that rapid growth posed challenges for him. Managing a surge of staff members and expanding product lines required skills he didn't yet have. Some people are very good at creating a business. Some people are better at managing, he says. I didn't feel I was a manager good enough for the size of that business anymore. In 2009, Ning Li sold his share of his business in France and took a year off to backpack around the world. He says it gave him the breathing space to start afresh. It was in London that he met entrepreneur Brett Hoberman, who encouraged him to start again with the same idea and the same business model, but this time selling to a British market. Now Ning Li's online company also works directly with designers to custom make exclusive products. He says it is harder than buying off-the-shelf products from factories to sell, but that you can still feel in the UK market today a huge gap for designer furniture at a good price. So this particular article that we're reading is from the BBC Online, and this was one of the pictures that was in with the caption that some people are very good at creating a business, some people are better at managing. This section was about Ning's challenges. He mentions that rapid growth was a challenge for Ning. So what he decided to do was to sell his share of the business and then take a year off to backpack around the world. The year off gave him some breathing space and then made him ready to start a new company. Question number 18. What function does it serve in the text to mention that the entrepreneur took a year off between jobs? Right? Does it provide a break in the detailed descriptions of the intricacies of organizing online furniture companies? No, because we haven't really gotten any detailed descriptions of that. Does it describe the experiences and adventures the entrepreneur enjoyed while he was not working? No, not really. Just pretty much says he did it. C, does it illustrate how the entrepreneur gained perspective and how he was able to start over again? Yes. And then D, it demonstrates how lucrative online furniture manufacturing and selling can be? No. So our correct answer is C. It explained how he gained perspective by taking the year off and backpacking around the world, and then how he was able to start over again with a new company. This comes from standard RI.5. Now we need to go back and pick up the two questions that involve the passage as a whole. So the first one that you had in your questions was number 12. Which quote from Ning Li supports the development of the central idea of the text? All right, so for the central idea, again, we want to think about main idea. So it involves us looking at the title. It involves us thinking about everything that we have read. All right, and so one big thing that we have is entrepreneurship, and one big thing we have is freedom. All right, so when we look at the various quotes, let's start at the bottom and go up. D, 300 orders for a furniture business, just amazing? No. C, when you look at what Chinese people do abroad, a lot of them open restaurants. No, that doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the article. B, the longer you go into investment banking, the more you are paid. Maybe true, but not central idea. And then A, as an entrepreneur, check. We like freedom. Check. So our answer is A. As an entrepreneur, we like freedom. That's standard RI.2. And then our last question for this section, number 13. What does the word entrepreneur mean in the text? Is it A, a business person who forms and manages companies without taking a risk? B, a business person who organizes an enterprise with considerable risk? C, a business person who prefers managing to organizing? Or D, a business person who prefers organizing to managing? All right, so first of all, we know it's a business person. All right, now we need to decide, does it involve taking a risk? Yes or no? And the answer, of course, is yes, a big risk, because he could have invested all this money and his company not worked out, and then he lost all of his money. So we can definitely eliminate A. All right, now let's think through the last two. Is it somebody who likes managing or organizing better? Well, from the passage, we know that you have to organize your company and you have to manage it if you're in investment. So both C and D kind of cancel themselves out, and we're left with the correct answer of B, a business person who organizes an enterprise with considerable risk. Standard RI.4.